Greetings, everyone. Welcome to COS Today. Dale Parrish, host, along with my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba.
Good
So,
evening,
uh,
Dale.
so Ken, I think you and I both watched Turning Point last night, right?
Yes, I turned the channel. I didn't want any. I wanted the NFL to at least not have my number in the queue, and yeah, I watched the Turning Point American halftime show.
Yeah, I did too. What'd you think of the game? I think
You know, I,
I
I
would.
picked I picked Seattle to win that game. To me, it was. It was definitely a defensive game. I think it's
Yeah, very
forming
much.
more. I think more and more people are these teams are realizing that defense wins championships. But it was a little on the boring side until New England got a little stepped up in there. But yeah,
Yeah, the scoring really didn't happen, other than the field goals. The scoring didn't happen until right toward the last,
yeah. If
very
you play
last part.
fantasy football and you had Jason Myers, you got 13, 14 points out of him. So yeah, but it was
All
it was,
right.
it was fun.
Well, folks, welcome to COS Today. We're trying to save the country with Convention of States. That's what we're trying to do here. Before we get started with our first segment, we have Maringo Mike that wants to give us a little reminder here. So,
The program, please be sure and hit the like and subscribe buttons along with the notifications bell so you'll always know when we go live. We appreciate your support and hope you'll join us on our mission to use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Now, back to the program.
oh boy, he's got that down pretty good now, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was working on a new script over the weekend.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, he's doing a good job now. Good job. Well, let's get started with our first segment, which is the In Focus segment. And let's bring on our guests that are going to join us tonight, Ken.
Yep.
First, we have Mr. Rick Lyon, former. Hi, Dick. How you doing, Rick?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, Dale. Ken.
Former state events coordinator
Yep.
for Indiana. Next, we have Diana Tullis, SCC for Ohio media liaison, a whole host of other things. Very, very busy young lady. And one of our regulars, Debbie Stewart. So Debbie's just a general troublemaker. So wherever she is. So in this segment, this is what we call the In Focus segment. And what we do during this segment is we each just talk about what's caught our attention, what's caught our interest in the world, the news, whatever you want to refer to it. So, in other words, what have you focused on here in recently, say in the past week here? So, I'm going to lead off with Rick tonight. Rick, this is, I think, Rick's first time joining us in this segment.
Yes, it is.
I know you've been on our program in the past a number of times, I think.
A few times, yeah.
But you're new to this segment, so I'm going to let you lead off. So, Rick, what's on your mind?
Well, recently President Trump talked about he was supporting term limits. And of course, that's a big topic for all of us. But I wanted to I have a little bit of a different spin on term limits. And so I'll call what I'm talking about to be term limits in schizophrenic America. So, am I getting a little bit of an echo there?
It disappeared now, Rick.
Okay, good. But you know, every organization or group of people, the group takes on the personality of the people that are in it, or especially the people that lead the group. You know, we rarely think of corporations or governments or, as having personality, but, and really they don't, but they do reflect the personality of their leadership. And I think one of the problems in our government today is that without term limits on members of Congress, the personalities in there become stagnant. Congress as a group, they fail to progress or improve because you got the same old leaders and the same old personalities that remain in office, and they're afraid of change. So, while the world of today is nothing but change, Congress doesn't change. or at least if they do, it's very slowly. So our problem-solving solutions seem to always be like 20 years behind the problem. And I think when we fail to update Congress, we fail to reflect the wishes of the people, as the world around all of us changes so rapidly anymore. I don't think 10 years ago that we would have ever guessed some of the problems that our Congress is facing today. And, and a lot of times when we do get new members into Congress, they're new and innovative ideas. They die a pretty quick death from the majority vote of the old guard. And so, our new problems are often addressed with old methods, or they're not addressed at all. And, for example, what does an 80-year-old congressman really know about the issues of social media or AI or crypto or any of that kind of stuff, really? But our Congress is supposed to represent the people so that the actual governing is done by the people and for the benefit of the people, and not by politicians for the benefit of their political party. Shh, dog's growling here, sorry. Government of the people, by the people, and a representative republic puts the power of the leadership in the hands of Congress, actually. The executive branch does the enforcement or the enactment of what Congress does, but the real leadership by the people takes place in Congress. So, the founders, the idea was that the people determine what we do and how we do it. But when Congress fails to do its duty and abdicates its leadership and the power to the president, then the personality of our country becomes, that of one person, the president, whoever's the president at the moment. So then the presidents, they rule by executive order or by picking and choosing the laws that they think they should enforce, and they ignore the laws that they don't like. So, but recently the Democrats, they made a big deal out of the No King's Day, and they call President Trump a dictator and that kind of stuff. But, I think in effect, the office of the president, whether it's President Trump or Biden or Obama or whoever, has kind of become a de facto dictatorship because I'll call it the stagnant and the lazy and entrenched old guard of Congress. They've sorry about that.
Rick, it sounds like your dog has a particular congressperson they'd really dislike.
Yeah. Let me shut the door real quick. Hang on just a second.
That's okay. That growling. I think he might be, or the dog might be pretty upset at our Republican held House that can't even get things done with a majority.
Yeah. Well, she does live with two COS people, so she gets pretty opinionated. But anyway, my point is that when Congress doesn't do its job and all the leadership actually goes to the president, and the country takes on the personality of the current president. And I think that creates a problem because the personality of the government changes every 4 years. And, I think this is a problem on many levels. So like within the past 5 years, let's say, just look at how the lack of law enforcement under Joe Biden, it suddenly changed to a crackdown on crime with President Trump. And, that's what's causing all the protests in Portland and Minneapolis and that sort of thing. So, but I think one of the things I want to point out is that this transfer of leadership from our Congress to our president creates problems on the international level. If I was another country and a friend of the United States, how do I count on the support of America when in 4 years there's going to be a new president and in effect a new personality for America to appear? And this president may support us, and maybe the next one will hate us, so it maybe even hold it against us for being friends of the previous president. So, but if I'm a country that's like an enemy of America, why should I be afraid of America when I can just drag things out, like Iran's doing right now, and I can lay low for 4 years until we get the next version of America with a different national personality. So I guess my point is that whether it's both friend or foe, I think it was John Kennedy said friend and foe alike, trying to figure out which America do we have to plan for, which America do we have to deal with, and which America can we count on. I think it's pretty frustrating and for other countries, leaders of other countries for sure. But, with our 4-year term and our term limits, we actually had term limits on our president. And Congress actually put those in place, but I noticed that Congress didn't put term limits on themselves. But, after we have an election, then the new president could just go in with the stroke of a pen and wipe out everything the president before them accomplished. So I think, that's no wonder that people lost faith and trust in the government, and actually have lost interest, I think, in participating in the by the people part of government, because they could accomplish one thing, for example, under the first term of President Trump, and then only to have it erased by President Biden follows him. So why bother? I might be a patriot today, but in the next administration, I could go to prison for my beliefs. So I think that's a problem. So this is why I think we have a personality problem with the schizophrenic America, as I call it. But, I agree totally. We need term limits on all elected government officials. But, I think maybe that could be part of what the COS is doing, with term limits. We might want to include that into the discussion when that comes up. So,
well, as you know, term limits is one of the major pillars of our resolution calling for a convention of states. Right. That's a significant part of our. It's the COS perspective. I mean, that's a significant part. I don't know that you bring up a good point about the personality, especially of the president, and how some countries can just try to lay low until the next president comes in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to.
Yeah, I don't have any answers for it. I've got lots of questions, and I don't have any answers for it. But it's kind of like a multiple personality disorder of our government. And I don't think we really expect our nation or this world to settle down until we fix that problem. And we can't live in peace and stability until we get some stability in the leadership type thing. I think that goes back to making Congress stable.
I think it's an excellent argument for federalism. So you decentralize the federal government, the president along with it, and the states have more power. And the stronger the states are, the more resilient they're going to be to overarching power from the federal government and work as individual entities. And in doing that, we would, if we're going to strengthen federalism, the best way to do that is through a state convention, which is what we're here for.
Right.
But you're also ideally reducing the use of executive orders at the same time. Hopefully an amendment for that would be really great for us, and further strengthening federalism and decentralizing power in DC. And you've toned that down a little bit, that sort of fluctuation between one president who says, we're all for the pipeline, and the next guy comes in 4 years later and there's no pipeline, we're closing it. You can't work like that.
Yeah. Or like your Israel, for example, President Biden limited the weapons that we'd sell to them, and then with President Trump, they get anything they want. So,
did the founders think about this? Do you think? Did the founders? Isn't that what when they set forth the enumerated powers, limiting the power of the federal government?
I don't know, but I'm gonna say no. I don't think they thought of that, because I think my opinion is that back then they didn't have such a wide range of opinions. Like take a leader like Obama and his thoughts and the way things ought to be done, and then you take like President Trump, and the difference between the two is so vast that I don't think back then that they would have anticipated such a thing like that, and they certainly didn't anticipate the type of problems we got today, for sure. But I think Diana brings up a good point about the executive orders too. I mean, that's kind of my point of that's how the president becomes a de facto dictator, is because Congress doesn't act, or Congress doesn't demand that the president do what they put in place. So then he gets to be a dictator by signing some executive order somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Good.
That's my point.
That's your point, and you're going to stick to it, huh?
There you go.
All right. All right. All right. Diana, what's on your mind?
Oh gosh, there's always something on my mind. Article 5 is always on my mind, so I can't help myself. Federalism is always on my mind. So forgive me, Rick, for sticking my opinion in there, but I couldn't help myself. And I am with the Convention of States as long as I've been, and for 5 years now, 6 almost. And one of the reasons is federalism is really enticing, and I'll explain it in my own terms real quick so that we don't lose any of the audience. Federalism would be the balance of power among the state, local, and federal governments, and it's all three, really. When I tried to ignore the local governance part of it, I was reminded that it does matter, and they do battle. The local municipalities are battling against the federal government and the state, and they get peanuts, and they're the ones that are making direct decisions about what is happening, like right outside our door here. So it matters, and it is all three of those. We balanced that the way it was intended by the founders at our founding, and the more balanced it is, the kind of things, Rick, you're talking about, I think, are smoothed out just a little bit. And with a convention, there isn't a single amendment that you can think of. Trust me, I've tried. There isn't one that doesn't strengthen federalism. When I say that, I mean decentralizing the federal government and uplifting the states and empowering the states and municipalities. And not one of them wouldn't do that. They all would do that. So we desperately need the convention to do that. And I think what you'll see, the kind of things Rick was talking about, that bipolar feel we get from our federal government would be somewhat improved. But what's actually on my mind is actually perfectionism, like kind of the dangers of it. I went to a meeting, a seminar, really, a retreat, I'll call it, on Saturday. And I'm a homeschooler, and it was about parenting. And this person that spoke to us specifically was, we don't need to get into details, and he was referring to parenting, but perfectionism and feeling like we need to do everything right all the time is not a ideal way to live, because we can't be perfect. We're not perfect. And when we dwell on the things we've done wrong all the time, it's not healthy. That we are going to make mistakes, and moving forward, what matters is the things that we did well, and we sort of have to set aside the things that we did wrong. And I would argue that applies to our country as well, obviously. And since this weekend, the Olympics were in our faces, in a good way. I mean, I like the Olympics, and the Super Bowl, both of them. And we had to kind of choke down, though, the negativity of athletes and whoever, viewers that are complaining about our country. And it gets tiresome because we're all so patriotic here. I know you're all patriots. That's why we're here. And it's hurtful to see people be so just misunderstanding the country and flat out saying that they don't like representing our country. Well, like it or not, they are. If they're putting the flag on there, they're putting the United States, jacket on or uniform on, and they're going out and being an athlete for the United States, they are representing. Are they representing all views? No, we're so many people here with different perspectives. That's not their job. Their job is to really, in my opinion, they should feel fortunate that they're even there doing it. But it certainly isn't to go out and criticize. So I saw this quote then when I was thinking and pondering perfectionism. I saw a quote and I reposted it. It says, it's a Winston Churchill quote. It says, "You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks." And that applies so well to, being a member of the United States, to a citizen of the United States. It applies to being part of any entity. None of us is supposed to agree completely. We're not perfect. I'm not a perfect parent. We're not perfect citizens. Our governance, our leaders are certainly not perfect, but that's not the point. It's just not going to be. Our founders weren't perfect. So we have to keep in mind, and it applies, of course, to Convention of States when people look for every single reason that they can think of as to why we shouldn't have a convention. I mean, you could apply that to any function in government and in the government, federal, state, local, and every single process they follow. You could throw a wrench in it and say, well, what if this, what if that? So I thought that was a great quote, and it was a good friend of mine that posted it. He was very, very smart, and I reposted it because it was a great message for COS and for the United States. Frankly, I mean, we can't just throw stones or criticize every single thing about the country. And if you're doing that about the United States, the greatest country in all of civilization, that's the freest country, darn near, I don't know about if it is still today the freest, but has largely been the freest in all of civilization, then you're really missing something. And I think that's, pathetic. Get out of the country and see the world a little bit, and make some decisions about, open your eyes and then think long and hard about what your thoughts are about the United States of America. And if you do expose yourself, or allow yourself to be exposed, I guess I should say, to other countries. I was just on a cruise, and stuff there were places we were not allowed to go because of the unrest, and it's bad governance that is causing that. And for all of our faults, we are still sound and the best place for free enterprise and for lifting yourself up from, poor to rich. And we have that flexibility here. And most countries, you would not be able to do that. I'm reading a book right now also on communist Czechoslovakia. It's a couple that left there. They escaped with their 4-year-old daughter. And the things that guy says that are his thoughts, that he's trying to talk his wife into leaving. At that time, Czechoslovakia was had been invaded by Germany and was under German. They were occupied. Thank you. Occupied by Germany, and then the Russians came in and freed them, but they had messaging that was communist messaging. They were so war weary that they ended up buying into the messaging from the Russians, who liberated them from Germany, which is the craziest part, and they ended up, a communist country. So in that time that this couple, they end up leaving, but the thoughts that he has about how awful it was to not live free, it just was so, it was just depressing. People weren't happy. They didn't, they couldn't even wear certain colors. They weren't even allowed to wear colorful things. Like, it's a horrible way to live. And for people to be out in the world on a world stage in the Olympics saying that the United States is anything but great is disgusting to me.
Diane, I haven't followed the Olympics so far very much at all. Have there been quite a few athletes come forward and say negative things about our country?
I don't know about quite a few. I know of 2 that were pretty strong that I know. I think there was some a truth, whatever that Donald Trump truthed it or retruthed, I guess, or made a comment. I guess he didn't retruth it. He made a comment on it because it was so bad. It was a skier. I don't even know his name. I didn't even want to say his name, but there were 2. There was a male and a female that came out pretty strong. I mean, and on top of that, we had the Super Bowl, the story of that, which didn't feel particularly patriotic either. So it's just too much for me to, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It is a shame. And if these people were a little more educated, they would realize they were just really being useful idiots, frankly, is what they're being. So anyway, we're not looking for the perfect country. I can tell you there's nothing in our Constitution that any one of those people that speaks out against, whether it's the Super Bowl entertainers or these athletes, there's nothing they could disagree with in our Constitution. They wouldn't. I bet you if they could read it or would read it, there's nothing in it they could disagree with. So what's not to represent there? Yeah. So I've similarly heard people that work for convention estates say there's nothing in our resolution that you can't, even our detractors who don't want to see an Article 5 convention, there's nothing in our resolution that you could disagree with. And same holds for the Constitution. At its core, it's all great. It's greatness, the Constitution and our resolution. So I'm happy to have said those things. I've had them brewing on my mind ever since the perfectionist talk I heard on Saturday. We're not perfect. There's no perfect process in Article 5 or anywhere else in governance. So I'll tie anything to convention of states. So I'm happy to do that. So
All
those
right.
are my thoughts for the day.
All right. Good deal. Good deal. Great. Great. I love that. I love that Churchill quote. That's so good. I love quotes like that from past leaders, and those are very really fun to hear and so meaningful. So many of them so meaningful. Debbie Stewart, I'm sure you got something that's heavy on your mind, right?
Well, we've been talking about the SAFE Act for a while now, and it's going to be probably voted on in the House. The SAFE Act is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. And so it's basically calling for when you go to register, you have to have proof of citizenship. And then when you go to vote, you have to have a government issued ID. So
this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about too.
Uh-huh.
But I'm going to let you go ahead. I just want to say I can't understand why anyone would be really opposed to this today.
Well, I think that if you want to win an election fairly, you wouldn't be. But if you know that you might have a hard time winning fairly, then you're going to look for other ways to get there.
You got to wonder. You got to think that's got to be who I don't. I think Trump has said it, or I've heard it said by others if you oppose this, it's you want to find a way to cheat. It's because you want to cheat.
Well, and I think we're coming off of the whole DEI thing, but it was pretty strong here, and we're coming out of that slowly, right? But they're using, Schumer said it's the same as the Jim Crow laws. They're saying, there's like 2.1 million people that don't have access to a voter ID. They even want to go as far as requiring states to move all non-citizens from the existing voter rolls. So to me, it's just common sense, right? But here's some facts. In many states, non-citizens may obtain driver's licenses and government benefits so that they could technically vote illegally. Some jurisdictions even allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. Although federal law states that only U.S. citizens may vote in federal elections, Washington bureaucrats have undermined state laws that require proof of citizenship to register. And 14 states, plus the District of Columbia, do not require voters to present an ID at the ballot box. Now, to me, that's definitely leaning towards the fact that we're not sure we want you to be honest that you're really a citizen. Now, the other thing that's going, and it's really not voting, but they are getting non-citizens in there is kind of what people are surmising that it's happening, is all the states are trying to redistrict, right? So they get more Republicans or Democrats in DC. And so the more illegals you have, remember, they don't count just citizens when they do the census, they count everybody.
Right.
You got those two things kind of going on parallel to each other. Although supposedly you have to be a U.S. citizen, you have to be registered to vote, you have to prove your citizenship, then you have to have a government issued ID when you go to the ballot box. So that is supposed to go before the House this week. My understanding is that in the Senate, John Thune had come out recently saying, hey, we're going to require voter ID, but now he's waffling a little bit. And people are wondering why, because like you just said, why would you not want honest elections, right? Unless you don't want to be honest. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go to say that so far, but I just feel like there's this, they don't want to address the issue. If you ask a Democrat, they want to go, oh, it's not fair. Too many people aren't going to be able to vote because of blah, blah, blah. But if that was true, why would you let everybody vote who can get to the ballot box? So that's what I was going to say, Dale. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this report, but it was one of our black congressmen. Can't think of which one it was. I've seen him on the news quite often, but I think he was in one of the recent hearings. He pulled out his wallet and started laying out all the IDs that he has.
Oh, geez.
driver's license, ID for this, ID for that. He had something like six different IDs. And again, he's a black congressman, and he says, and he was telling the person that was testifying that you tell me that black people can't get an ID?
Yeah. Good for him.
Here I've got 6 of them. So it's just it's really baffling, quite baffling. Actually, it's not really baffling. There's obviously some pull going on, some either donor pressure, or in fact it is in order to cheat. That could be the underlying factor. I don't know.
And I think the old magician's trick is like, look over here while back here. Like, so we don't want to talk about how we want to cheat, but we're going to talk about how it's unfair to people who can't get IDs. Well, you got 4 years to get them. So get out there and help them get their IDs. Like, if it was something else, you'd make it happen, right?
Yeah.
But watch this hand so you can't see the one behind my back. And that's what magicians do, right? They focus on this one so you're not looking at the other one.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, I saw a thing on the news earlier today. We were watching news quite a bit because of what's going on in Arizona, but they were showing this Democrat congressman was having a rally or a town hall or something like that. And of course, he was opposing voter ID, but you had to have an ID to get into his rally.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
So
that happens frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. All right, Debbie, good deal. Ken, what is on your mind?
Well, it seems like we've focused quite a bit tonight on things that our Convention of States focuses on, as far as federal overreach and a lot of other things that have come into play. And I'm gonna backstep a little bit because I think it's something that we addressed quite a while ago, and that's the education in our country. Of course, I think we're still in the midst of looking to dismantle the Department of Education, which, let's face it, funding that comes out of that, if you, again, follow the money, goes a long way into what it's done to our institutions across this country, from preschool to high school at this point. So my focus tonight is a little bit on education and how the barn door's been open for a long time. Let's face it, and I don't know whether we get all the cattle back or whether we can put them back in the barn. But my point tonight I'm going to focus a little tighter on education and bring it right on down to where we all live in Indiana, and probably a little bit over there in Ohio, Diana. But I mean, you can't ignore the amount of play that our high schoolers have gotten recently, in just about all of the different high schools across our state, where our children are being let's put it this way. They've created their own field trips and have decided to go out and join a peaceful protest, of which they saw basically modeled in Minnesota. And first question is, where are they on Saturday? I don't see any of them out on Saturday, but that's besides the point. My point is that I think a lot of this is being promoted from within the school. I think we have a lot of teachers that are associated with teacher unions, and have been kind of grooming. I'll use the word grooming students within school. And so I look at this and I say to myself, when I was in school, we would take a field trip, and it would be an educational field trip. And I'm looking at these students that are out in the streets. And now, so far, I've heard of a couple of injuries. I haven't seen anybody, kicking out taillights or throwing rocks or anything yet. I do see them standing on top of cars. And I see a lot of middle fingers and words that they're certainly not learning in English class. They certainly aren't getting that there in the English class. But I go back to a time when I was in school, and we actually used a series of books that was called Opposing Viewpoints. It was put out by Gale Publishing. And Opposing Viewpoints was a whole series of hot topics at the time that basically brought on two sides of the issue. And that's what I see missing in our schools today. Matter of fact, I see it missing in our politics and just about everything else. You never see two sides of the issue being debated. Debate, we don't have debates. Discussion, it's usually one way or the other. And I obviously blame the media for pushing out the one side that seems to take over all of our news and everything. But here's what I was thinking about the other day. I'm going to recommend to all our schools, all our high schools, that they design a field trip for our students. And I'm going to bring up a picture.
You going to bring it up, or you want me to bring it up?
I'll bring it up. I'll warn the viewers that this is pretty graphic. This happened in Indiana. This is the result of an illegal immigrant driving a semi truck that hit a car head on and killed 4 innocent people. I don't see anybody in the streets protesting this manslaughter, this killing. So my idea for a field trip would be to take this car, or there's probably a few others within the state already that we could do, put it on a trailer, and each high school that has one of these protests going on will need to do a field trip and come out and view this car. And then after viewing the car, they need to go back into school and actually sit down in the classroom and discuss both sides of this issue. So they see both sides of the issue, because right now they're only getting one. And this, the people that cry about emotional and emotional stresses and they cry about the rights. These 4 people didn't have any rights. I mean, they had them taken away by an illegal immigrant who should have never been here. So again, bring this trailer around with this car and force every school to go out and view it, so that they understand that there's another side to this issue that they basically are not addressing. And we should really get back to our schools having the ability to sit down and have an opposing viewpoint or a discussion about that. I know Susan posted something. I'm gonna go ahead and put this up too. It's just his old statement, but she says, when we reimagine education, I think constitutional statesmanship should be taught along with citizenship, so kids grow up with well-established values that stay with them in life and all public service. So I would ask you, are our kids getting the values and the things that will stay with them? And if they are getting the values, the ones that I see that they're having, obviously they don't have a command of the English language. They're ranking so low that just about, I mean, there are third world countries that rank higher than we do in areas of our education. So again, the education portion, it's been going on for decades, I know. Can we ever get it back? I don't know. It might be a lost cause. I know that barn door, like I said, has been open a long time. Or trying to get the toothpaste back into the tube. But this is something that really, I think our school administrators and the teachers that are in school, they really need to take a look at what they're doing to our education system. And it is something that we need to address, because a lot of these kids in high school in 4 years will be voting. So again, the training that's going on in our schools is not giving. And again, I balance that off a little bit. I get some hope from the fact that we do have a bunch of other kids, and you can see that obviously with the other side of things, with the Charlie Kirk and some of the things that are going on that side. We do have a group of kids that get it, but unfortunately, the news and what we see mostly is really the opposite side of this, which is really kind of disheartening. So that's my viewpoint for tonight. That's why I've been in focus.
Maybe part of the solution is to see more of the good stuff, more of the other side. That's kind of the role that our media has played. Is they always show the the wrong side.
Well, and I remember talking to a parent who had kids in the school system. I won't say which one around here, but in the Indianapolis area. And they were saying their kids were required every morning to watch CNN specifically for 20 minutes before school to be able to talk about issues. So, but they had to watch CNN. So I thought that was really interesting, you know. And then even some of these colleges that we visited with my kids, you go in the lunchroom, they're all got liberal channels on, even the Christian conservative colleges. Not all of them, but a lot of them did. So
It's funny. It's funny you say that, Debbie. The first 20 minutes I remember when I was in school was spent standing up saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I will say this: when my kids went off to college, we homeschooled, so we did all the writing classes, you know, because that's something I really wanted my kids to learn how to write. I hired some really good teachers to help me out with that. When they went off to college, they had one group paper to do. So he got elected to take everybody's section and put it all together into one paper. And he said, he called me, he said, Mom, no, they didn't learn how to write. And I was shocked because it was a nice college, you know. He said, I had to just really work with the paper and do a lot of things to it because they just never learned. And it's not the kids' fault. You know, if they go to a school and the high school doesn't teach them how to write, then who's supposed to do that if they go to school? So it was really sad.
Dale, you mentioned what the media's. I'll give you an example. Susan, obviously the other side of Rick here, has posted a firsthand recognition of what's gone on in her personal experience with kids. She says there was about 20 kids out of 1,600 at her granddaughter's school that protested, and those 20 had their picture on the news, even though they represented 1% of the student body. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's our media in a thumbnail.
That's right. I've seen this. I could give you some other examples of this very same thing, where the media focused on the minority, and you would think that represents the majority of the people that were attending that particular thing. I've seen it happen before. Yep.
If it fits the narrative. Yep.
All right. Okay. Well, guys, we're winding down to the end of this segment. The only other thing I had to mention, I mentioned the SAVE Act, and I chimed in with Debbie on her presentation. But I also think something's about to happen in Iran. I think Netanyahu's visit this week, which I understand has been moved up to this week. I think there's something getting ready to happen in Iran. Although I was happy to hear a report stating that the group that's trying to lead the citizen uprising in Iran, that they're asking, at least at that point in time, they were asking the United States to not do anything militarily, which I thought that was good. I think it's important that whatever happens in Iran, especially with any kind of a regime change, needs to come from the people within Iran and not from some military action that we would do. But I don't know, we may be past that point. I just have this feeling that something's going to happen, like a Venezuela thing or something, some kind of strike, not an invasion, not a takeover, but I just sense that something's going to happen. Any of you feel the same way?
Well, Dale, I'll tell you, we have close personal friends in Israel,
right?
And they're saying the same thing. Each time
it could be Israel that's going to do this. It could be Israel that.
What their opinion is that they're going to be on the receiving end more than the giving end, because they think they're going to be hit if something does happen in Iran. Iran's going to hit them, and so. But they said that there's military assets being moved into Israel and things like that. So there on the ground in Israel, they think something big's about to happen in Iran too.
And I wonder how much military power does Iran really have at this point? I mean, I know they've got some ballistic missiles and things. Obviously, their nuclear capability was pretty much taken care of earlier by Trump, but I wonder how much firepower they actually have, and some of this might be. I mean, you know, Iran has always pushed it up right to the edge of things. Except when Obama drew a red line. Of course, they freely crossed that because they knew what was on the other side. But I guess I wonder really how much they have and what it would take really to let the people really get what they need into Iran and push out this regime.
Well, I think something's going to happen. You know, our Treasury Secretary, I heard, watched him testify on this, and he says that they're tracking the money flow, and that the top people in the regime they're moving personal money out of Iran and into other accounts, Swiss accounts or other foreign accounts. In other words, they're protecting themselves and moving their money out, because I think that might be a good indication that something's going to be happening there. So I don't know. We'll see. I think we're gonna see something within the next 5-6 days. My guess is. So, all right. Well, guys, that's it for our In Focus segment for tonight. I want to thank everyone for participating. It's been another good one. I really enjoy this part of our program. We've had some very good success with it. Responses from viewers have been very, very good. So, you know, month before last, we went almost to 1.5 million views, and last month we just short of 1 million views. So, I think we're getting very good response. So, thanks again, and Debbie, don't go very far. We're going to bring you right back. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks again, Diana, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where'd you go, Debbie? I tried to take you off of there.
Still here.
I got her.
You got her off? Okay.
I got her. I found her.
Another good segment there, Ken.
I think we covered a number of things that are certainly on the minds of not only us, but other people. So hopefully that'll show.
I'm always impressed when we have on that segment, we have 5 people, and inevitably we each have a different focus, and I think that makes it so very good. Well, listen, let's take a look at another installment of Timeless Truths from our I'll say it, our AI lady, Elizabeth, and let's see what's on her mind this evening. Okay.
Yep.
Our founding fathers had seen real revolution. They knew what could happen should our government grow so powerful, so insulated, and so unaccountable that the people were to feel that there was no way to correct it. They knew that kind of pressure doesn't just fade away. It builds. And if that pressure has no legitimate outlet, it can turn into instability, even violence. So they built a pressure valve right into the Constitution. You see, when it mattered most, the delegates and state delegations voted unanimously to add a key safeguard to Article 5. That addition stated that if 2/3 of the states apply, Congress must call a convention for proposing amendments. The result became a constitutional remedy that would channel rising anger about Washington, D.C. into debate, votes, and eventually ink. So if you're worried about tension tearing this country apart, and many citizens are, a convention of states is how we constitutionally release that pressure.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the creation of one of our contributors, Ken Whaley, out of Idaho. And does a really good job with her. She's very good, very good. We try to have her on every week, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's bring Debbie back and bring her on right now. Debbie, you're going to talk to us about the Board of Peace. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So that kind of, that pops up in the news once in a while, but then it fades away and kind of gets buried by all other things going on. But I'm sure it is continuing to develop in some way or another. So why don't you bring us up to date?
Yeah, well, it's probably because no news is no news is good news. So far things are working okay. So they're touching on it, but I think that if things were to go sour, it'll be on there all the time, right?
Oh yes. Oh,
so
sure.
if there's a glitch in phase 2 or whatever, but so far phase 1 has worked really well, and then the World Economic Forum met in January, the week of January 22nd, in Davos, Switzerland, like they do every year. And Trump was there and had invited like 62 countries to be part of the signing of this Board of Peace. And about 19 of the countries showed up and were part of that ceremony and were in agreement with it. And you remember the board is intended to oversee the reconstruction of Gaza. So basically, 19 countries were there originally. Now some more have jumped on board. I'll cover that later. But so basically, some of the countries are Bahrain, Morocco, Azerbaijan, Hungary, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, Paraguay, Turkey, countries like that. But who's missing is Europe. So there's.
Did you say Iran is involved in this?
No, not Iran. No. Nope. Sorry about that.
All right.
No, Turkey, the UAE. Indonesia, but not Iran. No.
Okay, I didn't think so. All right.
So that was kind of what happened in Davos, and some people just didn't even show up. Some people said we're thinking about this, and we'll talk about. Some people just outright rejected it now. But so that was not quite a month ago. That was a couple weeks ago. So I tried to give you what happened then, and then I'm going to update you up to today.
Okay.
What we know. So. Also invited were Netanyahu, Putin, and Xi, and none of them showed up. But we'll talk about Netanyahu and Putin here in a little bit. So key points of the Board of Peace is just to remember that Trump is the self-appointed chairman, of course. The UN approved the board as a temporary peacekeeping mission to aid in the rebuilding of Gaza, but Trump is beginning to expand his role to be like the peace board, even to the point where he said this board could replace the United Nations.
I think that's the ultimate goal here. I think.
And I think there are some nations that are kind of in an uproar about this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the European nations have either said absolutely not, we're thinking about it, maybe we need to see what happens. But then this whole Greenland thing came in, and some of them are like put off by Trump's wanting to acquire Greenland too. So between it might take over the UN and the Greenland thing, I think those are issues that a lot of the European nations are dealing with. So they have not signed on at all. So only about 24 of the 62 countries that were invited signed on. I'll review the other 5 or 6 that just jumped on. EU countries are absent. Canada was a no. Actually, Trump uninvited them because he got mad at him. And they're leaning towards China anyways right now, working with China. So I thought that was interesting. So that's kind of what happened on the 22nd. Then he did name his executive board. We talked about this last time. Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Tony Blair, Mark Rowan, who is the CEO of Apollo, and then the World Bank president, Ajay Banga. I think that's how you say his name. And then Robert Gabriel, the security advisor. So there's 7 men that he's picked to be his executive board. Okay. Let's see. So the United Kingdom, the foreign secretary said it won't be one of the signatories today because they invited Putin to join. So the UK was like, well, you shouldn't have done that. So yeah, there's all this little intermingling and infighting going on around this whole thing. So Putin has received the invitation, is considering it. That's all I know right now. Still, I haven't heard that he's made any decision on that. I could be wrong, but I didn't find anything in the news today on that. And then the United States was supposed to be going back over there. Witkoff and Kushner, I think, to talk to. Putin had asked to have a meeting about it to find out more. France turned the invitation down. So did Germany, because they said they need more time. Find out what's going on. So was Italy. Italy said they need more time to see what was going on. And Sweden, Slovenia, and Norway turned the invitation down. Now, the United Nations Security Council endorsed this Board of Peace, but like we said, Trump has really started to broaden whatever the mission of that is. So it's going to be interesting. It started out as a temporary thing. Okay, so Mohammed Mustafa, the Prime Minister of the Palestinian National Authority, said, we want to work with the Board of Peace, with the Executive Board, and with the committee to ensure they do their part of things. He said, but we also want to see our government institutions continue to prepare for a reconstruction effort. So that was kind of his. So none of these European countries are jumping in yet. I haven't heard what Trump has said about that, if he's made a comment about that or what. So this whole board is supposed to help with the ceasefire and the war between Hamas and Israel. Okay, so later this month, actually in 10 days on the February 19th, all of these people are invited to the White House to have their first official Board of Peace meeting, in which they are supposed to kind of flesh out, what are we doing in phase 2? What does that look like?
When is that meeting? The 19th?
19th, yeah, in Washington, D.C. And the interesting, Netanyahu is invited the day before to talk with Trump on the 18th, but supposedly it's just about Iran, because Netanyahu, as far as I know, hasn't confirmed, but he says he's going to be part of the Board of Peace. Now, again, unless that's changed in the last day or two. So he'll be there the day before. It's interesting, though, because remember that October 7th attack on Israel was in 2023. So it's 2.5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So Netanyahu has not met with any of these Arab leaders since then. So this would be the first time he's meeting with them around this Board of Peace. So, yeah. Okay. So they just sent out the invites on Friday. Who knows how many will show up, or if there's any more that will join in the next 10 days or so. Let's see. Okay, so a lot of the European leaders are skeptical about this whole Board of Peace because, again, they don't want it to supplant the goals of the United Nations. So they are not jumping on. And we know the next step is the demilitarization of Hamas is what's kind of next, and then the restructuring and the rebuilding. Now, at the World Economic Forum, Jared Kushner did do an 11-slide presentation of what Gaza will look like. And that includes the 150 or more skyscrapers lining the coast. Told you, it's going to see smart cities. They're going to have transportation that is like a rail line, a high-speed rail line, all these things. And they're going to have certain sections where people live and certain areas where are going to be agricultural and parks. So they've kind of got it mapped out a little bit, but it hasn't gone before the Board of Peace, I don't think, yet. I mean, they saw it, but I don't think they voted or talked about what's exactly next. So since the week at the World Economic Forum, a couple countries have jumped on board. Albania, Belarus, Egypt, El Salvador, Israel, and Vietnam have all jumped on board. So I'm counting 23, but I could be off by 1 or 2 in case some things have changed.
So how many countries, if they get everybody on board, how many countries would be involved in this Board of Peace?
Well, he originally invited 62, and he disinvited Canada, so that's down to 61. But some countries have some of them already said no. They
Yeah.
rejected it. So the rejections have come from France, Norway, Sweden, Slovenia, the UK, and Italy so far.
Wow.
That knocks it down to about 55 that are potential, and we've got right around 24 now that I know of. It could be higher.
I didn't realize there were that many to be involved.
Yeah, because originally he said the Board of Peace would be like, I thought it was going to be like 15 to 20 people.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought.
So, but I think he's trying to invite more to get more buy-on, which makes sense. But
Well,
you have too many people at the table and you don't make any decisions.
yeah, I don't know how you coordinate 50
Yeah.
countries.
Yeah. So, so anyways, that's kind of the update on who the board is. And, you know, he's listed who the people are, the leaders of the nations. I can name them if you want, but nobody will probably know most of their names. And I can't pronounce most of them anyways.
Yeah, it's okay.
But we know what the countries are. And most of them are Middle Eastern countries, right? But a little bit on the second phase of the Gaza peace plan, as they're moving forward, they're going to be focusing on governance, rebuilding, and economic stabilization. So they're in phase 2, and there are still a lot of issues, humanitarian issues going on. There's lack of water, lack of medical care. You know, all the really essentials are still not being met there, supposedly. And this is a recent update too. So they need to worry about and be considering economic recovery and rebuilding essential civilian systems in the meantime, while they're trying to do like the long-term thing. And so the international planners are saying that, hey, political progress cannot be sustained without immediate, measurable humanitarian aid, relief, and, you know, coordinating with these different countries and people to make sure these people are taken care of. And throughout the Palestinian leadership, they're not all in agreement. So that's another issue that's going to happen, which hopefully is one of Trump's goals with this whole Board of Peace, is to figure out how are we going to work together. So, so the biggest really concern is stability in Gaza right now. So now, as far as the demilitarization of Hamas, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know where we're at. I did not have time to look at that today. So I don't know do you guys know what is the current situation there?
Really don't know.
I haven't really heard anything. No.
No.
Okay. Well, I was focusing more on the Board of Peace, but I did want to mention that we are in phase 2. So it'll be a real test. A lot of the neighboring nations are looking at this like, well, is this thing going to work or not? They're kind of standing back and watching. Is this a prototype, or is it going to fail somewhere along the way and then we're all at war again?
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of what's going on with phase 2. So they're going to, when they meet, they're going to be talking about that in 10 days. And when that meeting is done, we will probably find out a lot more about what that's going to look like and who else was at the meeting or who dropped out, right? And who that stabilizing Board of Peace is going to be.
This meeting ought to get a lot of attention, I would think, with that many countries coming together like that.
I would think it would be. I don't watch the news on TV very often. I typically see it on the internet or some back channels and stuff like that. So I don't know what CNN and Fox are talking about. But again, if this thing's going well and they don't want Trump to look good, it's not going to be, unless something goes wrong. And then it'll be like if Trump totally messes this thing up or whatever,
Yeah.
he can be blamed for something. It'll be on every station on that day.
Well, I'm sure some of the stations like Newsmax or some of them, I'm sure they will cover this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a subscriber of Newsmax, so I don't see what they're putting out there, but
I watch that frequently. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so
All
a lot
right.
of exciting on this meeting coming up.
Okay. All right. So after the meeting, you'll maybe give us another update, huh?
Absolutely. We'll check it out and see how it went and what did they come up with. I don't know if it's a one-day thing or it didn't say, it just said the 19th.
Yeah, this is a process. So Debbie, if you don't mind, let's kind of count on periodic updates to keep us informed on this, because
Sure.
I think it's very important, and I think you're right. if nothing happens that's newsworthy, you're not going to hear about it. But there could still, that doesn't mean things aren't progressing.
Right.
So,
And they probably are newsworthy, but maybe some people are just not making them
right.
in their news. So I definitely, whatever comes out of that meeting is going to be worth hearing about.
All right. Anything else, Deb?
No, I mean, you don't actually have to cut me off this week. That was the main update, and we've already done all the groundwork for this in the past shows. So
Okay. All right. Good deal. Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you very much.
Good to see you guys.
Always good to have you, bud.
You too,
Okay.
Debbie.
Have a great week. Bye.
That's interesting stuff. Can you imagine Gaza with 150? She said 150 skyscrapers down that coastline. Wouldn't that be something?
I mean, who wouldn't want that? I mean, these, the way that that region has been living for forever.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to see this as a top destination of the world? That's what it would.
I don't know if I'll ever see that, Ken. I don't know if you and I will ever see that. But
yeah, I don't know, Dale. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Well, listen. Let's move on. One of the new features that we've brought in this year for COS Today is called Lions Lyrics. And it so happens that the two lions involved in this feature are Susan and Rick Lyon. And of course, Rick was our guest tonight, and Susan's been on before for us. So they have put together. They I don't know how else to explain it. They enjoy writing poetry, especially Rick. And they put some of their poetry to music. And so that's what we've got tonight. Is I've asked them to provide us one a month, and they've already, I think they've created 3 or 4 of them already, haven't they, Rick? Haven't they, Ken?
At least they've at least got another one already pretty much done. So yeah, they're trying to stay ahead of the game.
This one I think is called Shepherds, Sheep, and Wolves, something like that.
That's it. Yep.
Okay, let's play that, and then once that's completed, then I've got recorded an interview with Larry Hudson on Meet the Founders, and he's going to now be talking about Sam Adams. So we'll get to that, but let's listen to Lions Lyrics first here.
When the daylight fades to silver and the quiet steals the land, there are hearts that never rest, strong and steady hands. All the children dream of freedom when the sky's a velvet blue. The shepherds keep the watch tonight for me and you. So I'll stand for the shepherds, brave and true. Soldiers, cops, and firefighters too. They face the wolves so we can sleep in peace. God bless the ones who guard our liberty. The sheep just keep on living, trying hard to get along, while the shepherds fight the darkness, keep keeping right from wrong. They don't ask for praise or glory, just a thank you and it's due. But they give it all without the fame. That's what heroes do. So stand for the shepherds, brave and true. Soldiers, cops, and firefighters too. They face the wolves so we can sleep in peace. God bless the ones who guard our liberty. Some say the wolves are only scared if the shepherds go too far. But when danger comes a-calling, it's the shepherds where we are. From the battlefields to Main Street, through the smoke and fire's glow, they've carried hope and courage down the hardest roads we know. So when the flag waves high above and the anthem starts to play, I remember all the shepherds who still stand today. So stand for the shepherds, brave and true. Soldiers, cops, and firefighters too. They face the wolves so we can live in peace. God bless the ones who guard our liberty. And then the morning warms the land, the shepherds still stand. The shepherds still stand.
That is fantastic, Ken.
Yeah, the poems and what's coming out of the lion's den has been
You know
pretty
what?
interesting.
That should have been something played at the Super Bowl last night, either on Turning Point or at some point. That I think is Rick still here? I don't. Rick was still in the lobby, but he's not here any longer.
Yeah, I don't see him. I know they're watching online, but I think he. I don't want to give too much away, but I think he's also got something that will be quite interesting coming up in March. That has to do with presidential side of things. So yeah, and a lot of that, like I said, I think regardless of maybe if there were problems on the side of the Turning Point American halftime show, I think the mix that they produced gave some flavor to patriotism and obviously to people who protect us. But I mean, those are the things I think we should be paying more attention to. Of course, like I said, it's being drowned out, Dale, by the media that just wants to portray law and order as something that we don't need in this country.
Right.
And I think to a certain degree that's really where that push is all about. They really want to drive that all out and have their communistic rule is really what it looks like to me.
Well, I want to be sure to congratulate Rick and Susan on this. I think that's a fantastic Lions of lyrics. So guys, if you're still listening, thank you very much for that. I had not heard that before.
Well, it was new. It was new. I had to. I basically that they get that music over to me, and I basically fit the video to it.
Yeah.
They like I said, they already have one out that's ready for March that I'll have to start working on. But yeah, they try and stay a month ahead, and with the
Now,
poems,
they're sending you the music and the video, right?
no, just the music. That was the video portion of it is what I've been putting together.
Oh, so you did the video part.
Yeah, they haven't figured out a way really to get that done. So there are some things out there that can help, but they're also very costly. I mean, if you get involved in some of this AI stuff to do that, it can be pretty costly. But yeah, I've been putting together the video for them. So
well, then you need to be congratulated on this too. My goodness, that was very, very good. We got to find a way to play this again sometime. I think that is.
Well, if this goes on long enough, we could probably do a jukebox, and between some of the things that we've got out there that they're doing, and some of the things we've done in the past, we could probably do a little jukebox.
There you go. Good idea. All right. Okay, let's move on here. I caught up with Larry Hudson, like I said earlier, and we recorded a segment here on another Founders. This is another installment of the Meet the Founders, and with Larry Hudson, and this one is about Sam Adams. And I think you're not
talking about the beer. You're talking about the guy Sam Adams.
I'm talking about the guy. Yeah.
Okay. I thought we were going to have a little break here and have a Sam Adams on the show.
No.
Okay. All right.
But he's turning out to be very interesting as well. So let me get to that right now, and we'll be back to you in a bit, folks. Don't go away. Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, host COS Today. Well, we're back on our Meet the Founders series with Larry Hudson, and Larry's going to be talking about Sam Adams and John Adams this evening. So without further ado, let's bring Larry on and get started here. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Dale. How are you? Good
to see you. Good to see you. We're both somewhat snowed in, but we're making it. It's just very cold, isn't it, Larry? It's just very cold.
Yeah, the roads are clear. We don't have any problem on any of the roads within the neighborhood or out on the larger roads, but it's just cold.
Same here. All right. Well, Larry, we're ready to start off 2026 in our Meet the Founders series, looking at the lives of Samuel and John Adams. Now, we know very little about Sam Adams, quite honestly, while, of course, John Adams was our second president. So he followed George Washington. So I know, too, also from your notes that you've given to me, that they were, in fact, distantly related. Okay.
They were.
Yeah, and they worked together during the Revolutionary War in the Continental Congress. So let's get started, Larry. Take it away.
Okay. Well, he was a cousin, a second cousin, actually, to John Adams.
Okay.
Two leading figures leading up to the Revolutionary War, as you mentioned. They weren't close friends, okay? They did establish somewhat of a political alliance when they got into the First and Second Continental Congress. They were, I guess you could say, those two plus Hancock and Joseph Warren, as we'll see as we get into this, were radicals compared to much of the colonies at this point in time. We're talking now well prior to the Declaration of Independence. So we're talking in the 1730s and 40s right now, 1750s. So they were out ahead really of their contemporaries in promoting liberty, or really a complete separation as far as Sam Adams was concerned from the mother country. Sam was the son of a brewer. It was never successful as a brewer. Actually, he was not successful in any business venture that he got involved with.
Is that right?
He turned out to be a great revolutionary leader, a manipulator, actually, and a politician, I guess, of politicians. I think most would agree that his John, the younger of the two, would have admired his leadership. I think there's a quote somewhere along the line. I don't think it's in today's presentation, but toward the end of my presentation, Jefferson and John Adams both attribute great success, revolutionary success, to Sam Adams. They were both from Massachusetts, which was a hotbed of colonial resistance to the British Crown at this period of time. So I'm going to start with the older Sam.
Okay.
At least known of the two.
So, well, okay. Then tell us, if you could, about his background, early life, education.
Okay. Yeah, he was born in Boston in 1722. One of 12 children. He was born to a Samuel and a Mary Adams. And he was one of only 3 of the 12 to live past their 3rd birthday. High mortality rate.
Really?
At that point in time, yeah.
Only 3 of the 12?
3 of the 12, yeah. And his parents were devout Puritans. His father was by those standards, a prosperous merchant, made his living selling malt, which was used, in the brewing business to make beer. His dad was a deacon in the church and was very successful, a leading figure in Boston politics. Actually, became a justice of the peace, as I remember, a selectman, and a member even of the Massachusetts Assembly or House of Representatives.
Okay, all right. So, kind of looks like Sam Adams came from some level of wealth, right? So, and we kind of know what a justice of peace does, but what is a selectman? What does that position do?
Well, I had to look that one up, Dale. That was a surprise to me too, but I kind of thought what it was. A selectman basically sat on a board of selectmen, which was the governing council for the town of Boston.
Okay.
About 17,000 people, I think, at this point in time. So not all that large. They were elected, for a term of 6 months. I think eventually it was a year. But they would be much like, I think, a position today on, say, a town board or
a city council or something like that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, what kind of education did he get?
Well, actually, he had a good education. I couldn't find much on his boyhood activities, but he did attend what a lot of kids did in Boston, and that was he attended the Boston Latin School, where students studied, their letters. It was more of a classical education, even for a young child. They wrote essays, and they did a lot of reading. They had a lot of reading assignments, as from what I could ascertain, read the classics. And at the age of 14, which seems to be quite young to me, but he entered Harvard College at 14, and I don't.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I can't. I found nothing to say that was because he was so smart, like a prodigy. So let's go to college. A lot of kids entered at that age. Their parents hoped he'd be a minister, a background in Puritanism, but he wasn't cut out to do that. He gradually shifted his interest to law and later into politics. And even, believe it or not, after graduating, he continued on to get what they called then, and we call now today, a master's degree, a Master of Arts degree. I couldn't find what field of study he pursued. I'm assuming it had something to do with the law, but he apparently wanted to become a lawyer. That didn't come to pass. He decided instead, and I couldn't find out why, but he went into business with a counting house. And then his preoccupation, I guess, with politics kind of got in his way, and he was let go. So he wound up, actually, his father felt sorry for him, lent him a sizable amount of money. I can't remember. I think it was £1,000 to go into business for himself. But he wound up frittering that money away, and he even lent, I guess, half of it out to a friend. Don't know why. But I did read where one historian, so I can find the quote here. Yeah, one historian wrote that Sam Adams was a man utterly uninterested in either making or possessing money. And surprisingly, to me at least, he then became a tax collector, which in my view put him at odds with those he ultimately wants to represent, and who later on he's going to tout the phrase, that oft used phrase, taxation without representation. But
well, that's an interest in money in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Well, you mentioned that his parents were devout Puritans, okay? And did he have a strong adherence to the Protestant religion?
Yeah, he did.
And what you mentioned the Great Awakening here. What's that about here?
Well, the Great Awakening took place, I guess. I had to go look into this. It was mentioned in the biography I read on him, a biography, 1730s and 40s. Around this time, the colonies, that is, were really religiously divided. Each colony had its own, if you will, state religion, or its own religion for that colony.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, most of New England, where Sam lived, were congregational churches. Congregational, I guess, is the proper pronunciation.
Yeah.
Most historians, I think, attribute George Whitefield, who was a minister, I think, from Great Britain, who came during the Great Awakening, and he toured up and down the East Coast. He had a significant impact on Sam Adams, probably changed his worldview. One biographer that I read said it's, quote, unquestionable that Whitefield's visit to Boston left a lasting impression and a religious fervor on Adams. And I have to note, he was not friendly to all religions. In fact, he harbored what one historian called an animus toward Catholicism. And he wrote that the Romish religion was destructive to civil society. Yeah. I also read that Adams often compared or likened the colonists, the American colonies, to the Israelites or the Jews. And he once wrote in a treatise that a man who wavers is but a step. A man who wavers is but a step from total apostasy. And he wrote that under the pen name A Puritan.
Oh, huh. Well, so he appears to be was a poor businessman.
Yeah.
But somewhat of a religious zealot. Did he ever marry or have a family?
Yeah, he did. After his father died, Sam, I think, was 27. And he married a woman named Elizabeth Checkley, just so happened to be a daughter of his pastor. I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, she'd go on to give him or bear him 6 kids in just Dale, 7 years.
Wow.
Much like Sam's family, only 2 would survive to adulthood out of those 6, and the other 4 children would die at very young ages. I don't think any of them reached 3 months of age, and she died even herself, delivering the 7th stillborn child the very next year.
You know, that may be why they had so many such large families, is because so many of them wouldn't make it.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The mortality rate was just horrendous, and of course, not everybody. Of course, Adams is not an agrarian; he's living in a city, but a lot of the families had lots of kids because they needed the workers.
Right.
On the farm to do chores, and I think it was probably true in the cities as well.
That's very interesting. So I think, and she said she died giving birth to the 7th child, right?
Yeah,
So,
7 in 7 years.
Wow. That's
but he did marry again.
yeah. I noted. How did that turn out?
Well, it was years later. I think it was at least 7 or 8 years later before he did remarry. It was another Elizabeth, as I found out, and Elizabeth Wells, and but they didn't have any children. So he was married to this woman for 38 years before she passed away. Very devoted to her, writing her often during what will come long periods of time away in the Continental Congress, but no children. Second marriage.
Okay. All right. Well, you mentioned he became a tax collector. Okay.
Yeah.
And during this time, of course, levying taxes, the taxes levied by the British were so despised by so many colonists. Didn't this kind of put him at odds with the people at large that he was?
Yeah.
I don't think he would have been very well liked, I would imagine, huh?
No, he wasn't well liked, and it did put him at odds, and it basically cost him his job. He'd lost most of the family money, his father's money, so he needed money. And I don't really know how this worked, but I read that tax collectors at that period of time, when they collected taxes, they could keep for themselves between 5 and 10% of what they collected.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and as important, they could also waive tax payments for whoever they wanted to, selectively, if you will, for months, weeks, months, even years, I guess. So they could win friends, if you will, and influence people. So they could get votes, and that he apparently took advantage of that. When he turned to politics, this gave him a place from which to start. He made a lot of friends, I suppose, in waiving their taxes, and on some he could make money and got himself out of debt. So in the long run, he failed as a tax collector because he didn't collect the taxes that he was supposed to. He found himself deeply in debt. So I think by the time he's, 42, he's really got nothing to show for it. He's not employed, and he's deeply in debt.
Wow. So how did he get involved in the Patriot cause leading up to the Revolutionary War?
Well, he really kind of just follows along in the footsteps of his father, who was a member, as I mentioned, I think at the outset. He was a member of the Assembly, the House of Representatives. So he embarks on a political career with the support of an organization that his father actually was instrumental in founding. It was called the Boston Caucus. It was America's first, I guess you could call it a political machine, an organization that was very powerful, a political force there in Boston. And he became, as he grew and time passed, he became an influential member and leader of it. The caucus included leaders of what then was called the Popular Party. They also were known as Whigs, which will become a political faction.
Right.
And in a short period of time, he was the political leader of this Popular Party. He also became part of the Sons of Liberty, which we've all read, I think, a bit about. It was a mass movement that was actually it grew out of the caucus after the Stamp Act. I think it was 1764, 65 time frame. And Adams was largely responsible for expanding it and making and moving it into an intercolonial underground network. It was in New York. It was in Connecticut. It was in Massachusetts. It was as far south as South Carolina. So it was not just located in Boston, made up mostly of working class men, artisans, shop makers, merchants. They joined in conducting street protests. They were kind of heavy-handed, intimidators, if you want to call them that. And they would support whatever he wanted them to support in the Boston area.
Okay. Well, listen, Larry, we're about out of time here. And I think, judging from your outline here, we're about to get into the Boston Tea Party part,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So why don't we pick it up next time there?
Okay.
When
That'd
he
be
gets
good.
involved in the Boston Tea Party. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, he's a manipulator. He's behind the Boston Tea Party. I found it very interesting.
Okay, and of course that's a very significant event, historical event. So that would be
probably the key historical event.
Yeah. So sounds like a good place to pick it up on our next session. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Larry. Thank you very much.
Look
Always
forward
learn
to
something
it.
from these. Always learn something. All right, Larry. Thanks. Well, once again, another good session from Larry Hudson on Sam Adams, and we'll pick it up next time, starting with the Boston Tea Party. So have a good evening. Thank you, folks.
Started a good one.
Yeah, always learn something from him on these Meet the Founders series. So
Although I think next time when we continue in this, we need to have a nice cold Sam Adams ready to kind of toast Larry and his subject there. So,
is that your favorite beer or something? Is that
it's one of them? If I'm gonna, I don't drink per se. Every once in a while when I want a cold beer, and usually on a hot summer day, Sam Adams has a good collection of brews.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never. I'm not a beer drinker at all. So.
No, I mean, like I said, I'm not. I don't drink, but every once in a while when I do have a cold beer, that's about the only thing I'll drink, and that's about one. That's about once every 4 or 5 months that I get to have one. So.
All right. Okay. Let's move on here. We're over time tonight, but that's okay. It's been a good program, I think, so far. So let's get on with a Dave's Daily Dose. This is our friend out of Minnesota, David Punt, and he gives us one of these every week. And this is a good one. This one, this one's about Don Lemon and the situation that he's in. Okay, so.
Yeah.
I thought this was very good, and we'll. I thought we'd kind of throw this into the mix tonight. So let's listen to Dave's Daily Dose.
Don Lemon is under arrest again. The former CNN announcer is probably out walking around making public statements, raising and ranting and insisting that he has a constitutional right, a First Amendment right, to sneak into a church service on Sunday morning. He'll continue to insist that he has a constitutional right to snuggle in amongst the people in the pews, and then just before the minister starts his sermon, leap to his feet with the other rioters in the pews and start yelling at the non-rioters, the regulars in the church service, calling them names, yelling about their white privilege, as long as they're white. Wonder what the rioters at City's Church in St. Paul yelled at the folks who were not white. Have to have a look at the tape. And Lemon will continue to yell about his First Amendment right to stop parents in the church service from going downstairs to get their kids from Sunday school and out of the building and away from the yelling, screaming, nasty rioters who have broken into their church and ruined the peace and tranquility of their Sunday morning worship. Except the First Amendment doesn't say that. This is Dave's Daily Dose on BrokenRoadRadio.com. I'm David Allen Punt. Lemon was arrested once before over this incident, and some soft-headed judge cut him free, but this arrest is for violation of churchgoers' civil rights to worship free of screaming rioters, and this one seems to have teeth. The Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution are not a place where you can look and see if you get special grants of privilege because of what you do for a living. The Constitution doesn't grant rights. It forbids government from taking away rights granted by God. That would be the inalienable rights you've heard so much about. The form tends to be that Congress shall make no laws infringing on the right to, and then the specific right listed. Congress is not granting that right. It's forbidden from passing laws to block you from enjoying that right. The FACE Act, Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, was signed by Bill Clinton and prohibits the threat of physical force to intimidate or interfere with a person who is exercising their First Amendment right to religious freedom at a place of religious worship, like a church. Perhaps Mr. Lemon can continue his podcasting from the big house if the warden lets him keep his microphone. I'm David Allen Punt.
Well, we'll see if he keeps his microphone.
I hope they throw the book at him. I tell you,
I don't know. I know Dave says there's a little more teeth in this one, and I believe so at the fact that it took place at a church service. But
yeah.
I don't see the book getting thrown at him totally. He
hope
might get a slap on the wrist.
He's. I understand now. He's calling himself a civil rights leader.
Oh my! Him and Jesse Jackson and
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. The guy never really was that good at CNN. Never mind what he's doing now. But
yeah.
I don't know. Again,
right.
Yeah, we've talked about the media too much tonight already. Get me sick.
That's a whole nother program, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is.
Okay. Let's start wrapping things up here, Ken. Just want to say one more time, what we're trying to do here on COS today is address today's issues through the COS perspective, and so that's what we're trying to do here tonight. Also, just want to remind people that if you want to find us, the easiest and best way is to search YouTube for our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. So once again, do a search on YouTube, American Patriots for Convention of States. That's our YouTube channel, and there you can find the live broadcast as well as past broadcasts. So that's how you find us, okay? Also want to say that anyone that has any question or comment about tonight's broadcast or about our program in general, feel free to drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. So, Ken, about ready to wrap up here with Marengo Mike. Any comments or questions from viewers that we need to address tonight before we sign off, Ken?
Comments. Let's see. No, we've really pretty much covered them. I will say that we did drop the link to that our YouTube channel in the chat. So there is a link there that'll bring you to the overall search of that. We can find it.
Okay. Do you think should I include that in the crawler here? Would that be helpful? You think?
It's not a really. I mean, what I put in there is it's almost looks like a Bitcoin address, but it doesn't. It's kind of vague. But yeah, if you click on it, in the chat, it'll take you there.
All right. That's the best place for it then. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Ken. Well, with that, let's let Marengo Mike close us out here this evening. And so everyone, thank you for tuning in this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the program. We certainly enjoy doing this, and looking forward to doing this many more times. So everyone, good night. Have a good evening.
Marengo Mike here with a reminder of the importance of this year as we continue to grow the grassroots army of volunteers and the mission of using the Constitution to fix the ills of our government. Use the QR code if you haven't signed the petition and consider